всіх.
Доброго дня.
Вітаємо всіх колег. Ми будемо починати за кілька хвилин, буквально, поки збираються учасники. Дякуємо всім.
Слава Україна! Україні!
Героям слава!
Героям слава.
I can hear you.
Героям слава.
I can.
Good afternoon, Madam Minister. It's a pleasure. It's a great pleasure to have you with us. So we are going to start in a moment. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to moderate today this discussion, a session of questions and answers with the Minister of Economy and Innovation of Lithuania, Madam Armonайте. We are going to have an informal discussion with the students and teachers of the Kyiv National University of Taras Shevchenko. And before we start, I would like to remind everyone about some basic rules of this discussion. So could you please keep your microphones mute? I see a couple of participants have connected, yes, with their smartphones, so please make sure that you are mute. And if you would like to ask our honored guest today a question, could you please do it by raising a hand and voicing it, or by putting your question in the chat, and then I will read it out, and we will do it this way. And so I think we should be getting started, and it is my pleasure to first give floor to Artem Kasparyan, the coordinator of the Lithuanian organization SOS Ukraine, SOS in Ukraine, and the floor is yours, Artem.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Artem Kasparyan. I'm coordinator of the Lithuanian project SOS Ukraine in Ukraine. Today we have invite the Minister of Economy of Lithuania, Mrs. Armonайте, a person who is very supportive of Ukraine. I thank the Minister for sharing your knowledge with the Ukrainian students today, who after the victory rebuilt Ukraine in every sense. Thank you. We can start.
Yes.
Thank you very much again, Slava Ukraini. I'm very happy I can participate in this discussion. I hope to keep it as informal as possible. You know, I believe that there should be as more interaction as possible between our two countries. And the last time I was in Ukraine was this April. I have visited Lviv and Kiev. I know that after that there were many changes in when it comes to the situation in Ukraine. It got a bit better. Then now we see these strikes and turbulences in the electricity supply, and Russians are attacking infrastructure, and that's very sad. So generally, of course, we are following very closely the developments and events in your country. We believe that, we feel that it's not, another some faraway nation that is at war. We feel that it's us. I mean, this is the general sentiment in Lithuania, both in the government and in the broader society. People perceive Ukrainian fight as Lithuanian fight as well. And these first 3 days of the war was, of course, it was devastating and extremely sad all over the world, but here probably even more, just of course as in Ukraine. I mean, everyone understand that, but here people felt like Lithuania is attacked. Kiev and other cities, we feel that it's so close that it's almost us. That's the general sentiment, and that's why both Lithuanian government and people do not stop and do not take breaks when supporting Ukraine. So, of course, I know we are in a constant contact with your governmental officials. We are aware that military infrastructure and weaponry, air defense systems are needed most. But I think there are so many things we also can contribute, and we are doing that. For instance, our ministry contributed with computers to schools in Ukraine. Also, we provided some servers. We do not need them, so why not give it to Ukrainians, who so that digital infrastructure could work, as well as, of course, this kind of exchange. I'm very proud of you, actually, that even in times of war, we can have this. I mean, it's a great achievement of your country. I mean, internet infrastructure is in place, communication is in place, education, obviously, is continuing. And that's the thing. I mean, this is inspiring. This is inspiring to us. So anyway, so we believe, we have to help Ukraine with everything we can, both military-wise and also from the humanitarian point of view, technology. We are in constant contact with your minister, Mikhailo Fedorov. Now, another topic, which is, I think, quite important, is rebuilding Ukraine. I will, if you allow me, I will elaborate more on that as well. There are some politicians in Europe who say that, okay, let's wait for the ceasefire, let's wait for war to stop, and then let's plan the whole process of rebuilding Ukraine. We believe that rebuilding process has to start now, because there are schools that are destroyed. I mean, there are some municipal services that can't be, you know, that are out of operation, water supply, or some other things in some particular regions. That's why we have chosen 4 objects to contribute to when rebuilding Ukraine. I mean, we understand that Ukraine is huge, and also the harm that Putin, you know, caused to your country's infrastructure is huge. But we have to start somewhere. So we are in partnership with municipalities of Borodyanka and Irpin. We are going to contribute to the rebuilding of a school and kindergarten there. We are going to build some mobile living space for families as well in Borodyanka, and we are looking into the projects how we could help rebuilding some bridges that has been destroyed, and it happens now. Of course, it takes time. I mean, processes are slow because of the constantly changing situation. We understand that. I mean, in a peacetime, these are huge projects, actually, you know. But then especially, of course, in time of war, it's even more complicated. But I mean, we are happy with the partnership with your municipalities and communities. They are very proactive, and they are very, I mean, they are very, we are in a good communication. Maybe one more last thing, personal from my side, you know. When rebuilding Ukraine, I have, when planning, you know, these projects, how we can help rebuilding Ukraine, I have met a couple of architects who, you know, shared some of the ideas, and I thought that probably they are right. You know, it is extremely difficult, but we need we need to work when rebuilding Ukraine. We have to aim higher. I mean, if we had a school in Borodyanka that has been destroyed, you know, we have to rebuild it in a better way, with more open spaces, with a Western philosophy, more, you know, more spaces for cooperation, for children to meet, you know, together, and so on. And sometimes, you know, when I discuss that about Ukraine, I also thought that I want that in Lithuania as well, because we do all have these, you know, old Soviet buildings that actually puts a lot of pressure on you as an individual. So if we managed to rebuild Ukraine better when it comes to infrastructure, it would be, you know, the best thing, the best scenario of all. But anyway, we have to beat Putin. That's the first thing. However, from the Lithuanian perspective, and in the government of Lithuania, I mean, we believe that the whole process of rebuilding Ukraine has to be started now, and it's not only about infrastructure; it is also about reforms. And I am, you know, everybody, of course, you know, is very inspired by President Zelensky about his leadership on human rights agenda. Istanbul Convention has been ratified by Rada. Lithuania hasn't done it yet, and Ukraine sometimes is even a better example in these things as well. I can talk a lot. I'm a politician, sorry.
Absolutely, but thank you very much for these words, and thank you for sharing your experiences. They are very important for us, and we have many more questions from our students, both in the chat and from the audience. So let's first take a couple of questions from the audience. Nastya Nikityuk, please ask your question.
Yeah, I'm so proud I can be here, and I want you to advise us. We are future economists, I suppose, and we will be the generation that will rebuild Ukraine by our own hands. So what should we do? What is the plan for us that should be like, that we should remain in our minds when we are rebuilding Ukraine?
Well, that's a very good question, you know, and it's a good question, not only for the economists, but actually for everybody. And I just, you know, there may be, you know, a very clear answer, but I'll just share some of my thoughts. You know, it is, of course, important to love your country, and I'm sure that everybody in Ukraine, you know, gives everything for Ukrainians' freedom. I got impression, and I truly believe, I sincerely believe that it is impossible to occupy Ukraine. It is physically impossible. You are too strong. So that's the good news. That is the good news, despite this devastating war that is going on. Now, talking about the future, I think, you know, it is important to. It is my opinion, but I wish you'd be as much in contact with the European allies and countries as possible. You know, go somewhere for an internship, gather some information. I mean, take an online course if you have an opportunity. There are some programs that are free of charge. Just please, you know, have these connections and contacts with the European countries and make friends from from the European Union, from different countries in this great continent. As economists, well, I think freedom is something that is very fundamental, not only for countries' existence, but also for the economic agenda as well. Believing in private initiative, market economy, creativity, creative destruction is something that is, you know, building prominent economies, and actually opens and is helping, you know, countries to open up for innovation. We are entering a new world order, or maybe not a new world order, but a new chapter of the economy. COVID has started it, and this war actually accelerates it. This means that those economies who are more digital, those countries and governments that have applied digital reforms and transformation, they are now doing better. And it is impressive how Ukraine manages to maintain its digital infrastructure, digital services, and institutions. For instance, Lithuanian banks, they get access easily to registers in Ukraine and so on. And that's crazy. That's crazy good, I mean. So we need that kind of reforms to stay stronger and be more resilient to different crises, first. Second is, of course, green agenda and green economy. Of course, everybody knows here Greta Thunberg from Sweden. So, you know, who could have thought that a schoolgirl from Sweden is right? Not only because, you know, these green reforms and green transition save the planet, but also it saves money. Those companies or, you know, manufacturers, factories who apply green technologies, who use renewables, they do perform better now, because countries and they do better. And countries who have transformed from the digital and green transition point of view, they are doing better nowadays. The worst, the opposite example of that is Russia. That is not innovative, that is not open to private initiative, and it is open just for Putin's cronies and state-owned capital, you know. They base their economy on fossil fuel and all these natural resources that are, of course, limited. And this is not sustainable. So please keep in mind the sustainable green and digital agenda when planning Ukraine's future, because it not only saves money, it also saves the planet. And yeah, and the European nation, the European economy, it belongs in the EU, and making friends in the European Union will help you, you know, becoming members and also contributing a lot to Europe's future, European future as well.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful. Yeah, but I want you to ask you one more question, if it's possible. No?
I think there are 20 more people wanting to ask a question, so let's keep one question per person.
So yeah, maybe we could collect more of these questions so that I can follow up in maybe.
In the yes, absolutely. So may I ask everyone to put your question in the chat as well, so that we can then follow up with the answers from the minister after the discussion is over. And actually, I would like to read one question from the chat, which concerns Lithuania. The question comes from Oksana. I don't see the last name, but the question is this: how did the war affect the economic situation in Lithuania? We can see the consequences of the war in our country, but we don't really know if something has changed for other countries in Europe.
Yeah, so of course it has a direct impact. The first is, of course, energy prices. Electricity is, the prices of electricity are skyrocketing now. And it affects our economy directly because 20% of our GDP comes from manufacturing industries. And you know, these factories, it's expensive for them to produce. And then, of course, we have the highest inflation actually in the European Union. Inflation is the last month's inflation was 24%. This year we'll have 18% inflation, and the core of this inflation is energy prices. So that's the thing. It is expensive to, I don't know, get to go to a restaurant. I mean, pay your energy bills and so on and so forth. And also those people, families who have loans, who have taken loans from banks. Of course, it's now getting expensive to pay them back because of the decisions of European Central Bank and you know, raising these interest rates. So that's one thing. The other thing that's not on the paper yet, but we feel it a bit, is that foreign investors are not so sure that about the security situation in the region. And it's not only about Lithuania or Poland or, I don't know, Latvia. It is also about Scandinavian countries as well. So there are more teams who, for instance, work with the risk management and so on, risk assessment. They are visiting and, you know, assessing the whole climate. We do not see, for instance, that investment projects are being stopped. It's not that, but people and companies, they are looking into these risks more. It could, I mean, this rocket in Poland, I mean, it shows that sometimes, you know, it could have effect to the investment climate in the region. And for instance, tourism is something that is also quite important. When it comes to Russia, I know that many countries, you know, because of sanctions to Russia, they felt some sort of negative implications for the economies. It's not the case for it's not the case here, because we have not purchased gas from Russia. We are shipping it through liquid gas terminal. We stopped purchasing electricity from them before it was cool. So as for us, we don't believe that Russia was a sort of significant economic partner for us.
That's actually very interesting that you mentioned that. And you have also, by answering this question, I think you have also answered some other questions that we have in the chat, with specifically question related to the investment climate and to the investors investing in Lithuania. Let's take one question from the audience. Andrishina, the floor is yours.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank Lithuanians for strong support of Ukraine, and also thank you that you took your time to speak with us. And my question related to the digitalization. Is Lithuania inspired by Ukrainian digital app DIA to create its own application in order to reduce the level of bureaucracy in the country? Thank you.
Maybe we could take more of these questions. I am taking notes.
Okay.
So thank you, Andrei. Thank you very much. Your question about digitalization and the DIA app is noted. Sergey Marisev, could you please ask your question?
Okay, thank you. So it is widespread that there are people with different political views and political parties in the government and cabinets. For example, there is a person that was an active participant of left-wing party, and after some time, this person became to right-wing party. And what should be the attitude to this person? Should we consider this person as an opportunist who seeks the best possible opportunity for his best benefit? Or should we consider this as a development of political views of this person?
Sergey, thank you very much for a political question. And Stephanie Lavrinenko, the floor is yours. Let's take.
Yeah, thank you. Good day, Mrs. Aушріне Armonайте. I would like to ask you about a probably hard question, but today a lot of people was uprooted by Russian full-scale invasion in Ukraine, and they moved to the different European and not only countries around the world. As we know, it's hard to recover and save our economy without people who are working, people who are living in the country. So what probably we should do, especially Ukrainian government, to return our people back in Ukraine, because it isn't a safe time, as we understand.
Thank you very much for the question. Ms. Armonайте, shall we take a couple more?
Okay, I can answer now, and then I'll try to be brief so that everybody can ask, or at least. So regarding digital, yes, we are truly inspired by your experience. Lithuania is one of the most digitalized countries in the world. Everything is being conducted online, from taxes to, registering a property or anything. But we also are inspired by Ukrainian experience when it comes to reskilling and upskilling people who who may not have some very particular STEM sorry, forgot the word, qualifications. So I haven't visited DIA, but I have visited another digital hub in Kiev. It was a year ago, or it was before the war. So I think we could do so much more together, in the digital agenda after the war, especially. Now, regarding Sergei's question on the changing political parties and political affiliations, it is something that is happening in Lithuania as well. Just a recent example, current mayor of one of the seaport in Lithuania, Klaipėda, he was a liberal for like 20 years. And now he just announced that he will join Social Democrats. So, it happens. It's up to you as citizens to decide whether, you believe in their sort of intentions. Sometimes these cases are very, individual. For instance, me, I started my political career in old Liberal Party. But after 3 years, I have realized that nobody believes in the same values I do. And we had to create a new political party. It is some sort of a startup in political party as a startup in Lithuania, our current party, Laisvės partija. So, how to perceive me. Am I a, sort of a changing person? But I think, well, I have changed these organizations because it didn't represent me back then. And there are sometimes very different motivations changing. Sometimes it is because of the government positions and I don't know, some other positions to get better sort of positions. But sometimes it is because of very individual reasons. So that's why citizens like you need to, use your critical thinking to distinct whether it is sincere or is it because of just a personal sort of gain, and that's that. On Stephanie question about people. Well, I know that economic impact for Ukrainians' economy is, it's substantial. To gather, gathering taxes it is a challenge now, and it is impossible. Sometimes even like physically to control territory. So let alone, gathering budget. But maybe it is just my personal view, but I will share it with you. When I was in Ukraine, it was in April, I got an impression that western part of the country, it somehow manages to grow. Businesses are being run and so on. And for instance, we have a furniture shop in Lithuania that still sells furniture that are being made in Ukraine these days. So trade is continuing. we need, of course, with the disruptions. I mean, of course, half of it is not there, but still, Ukraine manages to somehow do business, especially in the western part of the country, and also provides materials that are being needed, products that are being transported and sold. So I think it is possible, you know, even, I mean, this is the Ukrainians have shown it by your own example, that somehow it is possible to sort of maintain a portion of that, of these operations. And one also personal thing, now when I do my nails, I have a Ukrainian lady doing them. And she is from the western part of Ukraine, and she is planning to come back because soon she doesn't feel like there is war going on in the western part of the country. Of course, we know the airstrikes and we read about that, and it's obvious it's there, but those people who have left the country, all of them believe they will come back home soon, and I hope that that it will be the case. In Lithuania, we have 65,000 Ukrainian people. I believe the majority of them want to come back home as soon as possible. So sometimes I think it's just, you know, government has to take care of the defense now. And people love their country. People will come back. Maybe not all of them, of course. Lithuania had this experience, you know, for years. People leaving the country, but at some point they will start coming back.
Thank you very much for answering these questions. Shall we take 3 more from the audience? Okay, good. Evgenia Ponomarchuk. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you for attention. And to begin with, you know that the situation in our country is very unstable and volatile. And I'd like to ask some questions. Do you consider that Ukraine will face full-scale economic collapse? Maybe it is possible in the future, for example, if the things will get worse, and will it affect our economic system, and will it provoke maybe even full-scale collapse in our economic? Thank you.
Thank you, Evgenia. Dmitro Christenko, could you please ask your question?
Okay, my question is, of course, you know, Ukraine wants to join to European Union, and we have not as strong sides of economic. So my question is, what in your opinion, what aspects of the economic should Ukraine develop? And yes, what aspects of economic should Ukraine develop? Thank you.
So I think Dmitro is interested in what specific industries of economy Ukraine should be developing to become a member of the EU. Thank you very much, Dmitro. And one more question, Artem Litvin.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. And my question is, how may the government of Ukraine support our economy despite the current energy and financial crisis? Thank you for attention.
Okay, shall we take one more? It looks like we have a block on economics. Polina Oleksienko, please, your question.
Yeah, thank you for your attention. And my question is, how do you assess the impact of the transition to the euro currency on the economy of your country? And how did it affect inflation? And can you control it now? Thank you.
Shall we take some more? One more, yeah? Okay, then Vladimiros, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks for your attention. My question will be, what do you think is the strongest thing about the Lithuanian economy compared to other countries? And which of this should Ukraine pay attention to? Maybe we can, maybe you can give some advices to us in economies that can help us to become better. Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
That's very clear. Well, thank you very much. These are very important, substantial questions. I will try to give some answers to them. Now, Yevgeny asked on the full-scale economic collapse of Ukraine. My personal opinion, I'm an optimist. I don't believe that it will happen. I hope as well it won't happen. You know, of course, the future is very uncertain. We don't know what else Putin will think of, but if the war goes like something like we see it now, I see that some of the companies are managing to remain in operation, and they contribute to the budget, and they sell goods abroad, and they have money coming back to their country. I will tell you a Lithuanian example. There is a huge group of investors in Ukraine, Lithuanian ones. They have invested into the chain of supermarkets, and also they invested in real estate. So one of the supermarkets in Kiev, I forgot the name, sorry. Of course, those who are from Kiev probably know it. Anyway, it was hit by a rocket, and it caused like 100 million euro damage, but they managed to rebuild it very quickly, and I think it's open now. So businesses, they have not, some of them are closed, some of them stopped their activities, but some of them still remain in operation, and they are making money. So, and they are, you know, keeping people at work. So for the time being, I don't see this coming, and I don't think it will happen. Dimitro, on the EU accession, right, and the whole Europeization and reforms thing. There are no special sort of there are no key industries you have to sort of develop in order to, you know, have a better evaluation as a candidate member state. Before the war, Ukraine had a quite diverse economy. You had, you know, digital industry, you had manufacturing industry, and you still have it. The different kind of spheres of, then also, you know, natural resources as well. So it is a diverse economy, and I think the most important thing is to ensure stability, anti-corruption reforms, stable investment climate. That's the thing, and of course, I mean, stable justice system and so on, so that no one is prosecuted because of its I don't know, hers or his sort of beliefs. These are things, but there are no certain sort of industry that is important to sort of, I don't know, emphasize when joining EU. And I think it also answers a bit Vlad's question on the strengths of Lithuania and the whole sort of example angle of it. Stability is the most important thing for an investor, for a person who does business, for a person who creates a job for him and for other people. So stability, security, knowing that your private property is, you know, is protected, and no one will come and take it or nationalize it. This is something that is extremely important and essential. So I think, you know, investing into sort of anti-corruption reforms and also political stability, at least having a bit of consensus is always good among political parties, so that we do not fight against each other at least not all the time. I mean, I'm talking from our perspective as well. I started also answering Vlad's question, so maybe I will finish it and then we'll come up, jump in with others. So strengths of Lithuanian economy. I mean, compared to Ukraine, we are small. We are 3 million population. We are very open economy. 80% of our GDP comes from exports. So everything that happens in the world affects us immediately. Pandemic, war, anything. That's why we have to diversify our export markets, and we are doing that. Not only Germany or the US, but also Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific countries. We are we do see growth of our exports, for instance, to Asia Pacific countries, 47% growth. That's something that is very significant and important for us. Now we develop, or since we are small, we have limited resources. Everybody has limited resources, but us especially as being small. So we are investing in a couple of, or actually 3 industries. It's biotechnology that grows by a lot, and high-tech engineering. You know, sometimes it's better to know less things, but very well, rather than knowing everything, especially for a small country. As for Ukraine, again, being huge, you know, having digital, having natural resources, having manufacturing industry, retail, and anything. This is something that makes you very competitive after the war. But the most important thing and the biggest resource of all is people. And as Stephanie has said, you're absolutely right, it's people. And that's why #1 reform that has to be prioritized in Ukraine or in any other country actually is education. Well, because then you sustainable and coherent framework, you have to plan your budget, you have to plan your investment, and you have to meet certain criteria to maintain your financial system stable. And that's a good thing, what Euro gives us. Also, competitiveness and, you know, having this common currency, it is important for us when it comes to investment climate. Now, inflation, as I said, current inflation is being driven by energy prices. It's not Euro. Our inflation is the highest in the Eurozone now, the Baltic countries. So Euro is not a cause of the inflation. Putin is the main driver of the inflation in Europe.
Thank you very much for your answers. If you would like, if you feel your question needs to be answered, please put it in the chat, because we have just 10 minutes left for the discussion. So please make sure that your question is in the chat if you want to get a follow-up answer. from Minister Armonайте, and I think we can take a couple of more questions before we finish. So maybe Maria Sobol, could you please ask yours?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for supporting our country and for sharing such important information with us today. And my question is, what other economic and social challenges will Ukraine face during the process of rebuilding our country, and how other European countries will be helping us dealing with these challenges? Thank you.
Then Yulia Mosharova, please, your question.
Yeah, so hello, good afternoon. So, and my question is, what do you think is the main object of communication between our countries? Like, I'm talking about maybe some project, or like you were talking in the beginning of our meeting about some communication between our generations, between making friends and all in European Union. So that's why for me it is interesting how we can cooperate and how we can do it more clear. So thank you.
Thank you, Yulia, for your question. Anastasia Chernych, your question, please.
Thank you very much. I'm a little bit sorry about the background. As you know, there are a lot of problems with electricity in Ukraine, so I'm forced to work and to study in some restaurants with generators. And I'll continue. I have a little bit hard question about sanctions against the war participants. I mean, Russian, we can say such friends, Belarus, and so on. Should these sanctions be implemented internationally, and does your government include these sanctions in their politics? Thank you very much, and thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Yes, there were a couple of more questions about sanctions in the chat as well, and whether they actually work from your perspective. And maybe one more question from Volodymyr Kolodnitsky.
Hello. We're glad to see you at this conference, and I'm interested in one question and think that's not only me. How can we improve the economic situation now, since no one knows when the war will end, and waiting till the war will end isn't the best idea? And how digitalization can help us in this aspect? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we'll give floor to Minister Armonайте to answer the questions now.
Thank you very much. The biggest socioeconomic challenges and how European Union can help. There will be the whole bunch of things that we'll have to deal after the war. Not only from the economic perspective, from the budget perspective, or business climate, but also there are so many people who were displaced because of the war, who lost their homes, and helping these families get back to normal life is something that will be very much important. Second is mental health. And sometimes I think that we tend to not to pay attention as much as we should to this sort of thing, not only in times of war, but generally, but especially in times of war. There are, it's a huge crisis, and people, it affects people's, psychology. It affects, cute kitten, and it affects everybody. And this is something that will have to be dealt with by the government as well, by the Ministry of Health, and so on. Now, European Union, it is ready already to help, and 9 billion euros humanitarian aid this year already is a substantial investment. But I think what also is important, not only to donate money, because there will be money. Money won't be a problem. International donors, the European Commission, World Bank, others, will ensure that Ukraine will receive these financial resources. The most important thing is also common projects, European, Ukrainian, you know, projects, partnerships, and we are ready to help there as well. You know, maybe having a twinning or something, exchanging experience, consulting, having seminars. This is something that we could benefit both. I mean, learn from each other. How to sort of make this communication and partnerships and making friends in reality was the second question, right? So, you know, maybe my answer will be very broad, but I'm quite certain, and there are programs, internships you could benefit from. Just please use, you know, European Commission and European Parliament pages to look for more information. I urge you not to leave your country, of course, but gaining some experience and you know, bringing it back to your country is always worth doing. You know, having a studying abroad, maybe someone of you already did that before the war. So this is something that is extremely important, and please look into this. Sanctions, I think they do work. They could work better. I think that no one would have thought that Europeans will manage to go that far with these sanctions. Just an example. In the Baltic Sea, we have two Russian Gazprom's pipelines. Actually, there are 4 pipelines, but 2 projects. It's been called Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2. They were started by Russian government in cooperation with the German government. The Baltic countries and Scandinavian countries were always skeptical about it, softly speaking. I mean, we didn't want that project to happen, but it happened anyway. And it was started in 2006, 2007, the Nord Stream 1. And few years later, maybe, I don't remember, maybe 12 or 14, Nord Stream 2. Not so long ago. It's quite a new project. And it increased Germany's dependency on Russian oil. Here we go. Both of these pipelines, they are not in an operation because something happened with that infrastructure. Of course, it was Russian doing, allegedly. It's not official yet, but we, those who have experience with these neighbors, we know what they are capable of, right? So that's the thing. And you know, countries like Germany, who were always very skeptical about these sanctions and, you know, and so on, they are applying them, they are voting for them, they are adopting them. Of course, for everybody in Ukraine, it's not enough, and it is not enough. But now, you know, Putin showed his true face, and everybody understands that we have to push him further, not only military-wise, but also economically wise. And it has, I mean, I read some of the articles where there were stories of regular Russian stories living in Russia. And they said that they haven't felt implications of the war Russia started up until, I don't know, very recent. So it shows that still there is a room for the sanctions to take action, because of course it has to put pressure not only on Putin himself and contributors to war, but also on the whole country. I understand that there are people who are against war in Russia as well, and there are those people. But I mean, it's the country that started it, and then sanctions are about to, you know, take being applied not only for the government but also for everybody, so that everyone realizes that it's not a good thing. And it's not that it is not a good thing, but also you know, just feel that not only Ukrainians feel the consequences of war, but also the country that started the consequences of it, and then change the government if it's possible in Russia. How to improve economy? Well, I think it is, and digital is also mentioned. You know, I think everything that has been done recently, and everything that Ukraine is doing is something that is very great. I think it is important to invest into education and to keep education running as much as possible. You know, having closed schools is not a good thing. Sometimes it is impossible to avoid that. I understand that it's war, but if it is possible, you know, we have to think of ways if there is a way, you know, to keep continuing children learning and teaching them. And that's important for the economy. It's something that has already shown its advantages in Ukraine. As again, I'm coming back to the digital infrastructure that works, and Ukraine maintains its operation, maintains the communication. We are discussing it, and again, so it has already proved, you know, that that is essential for the economy. So let's just move forward towards this direction, and that's it. Whew.
Oh, yeah, that was perfect timing, Madam Minister. And we would like to thank you very, very much on behalf of all the students and professors of Taras Shevchenko University of Kyiv for finding time and opportunity to speak to us. We hope this is not the last time we are having this discussion with you, and all the hearts are for you. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
I am sure I will come back to Ukraine quite soon. I just hope that one day, and it will be very soon, I hope, I'm sure it will be very soon, I'll visit Kiev that, you know, is peaceful, that is peaceful. I love bars and clubs in Kiev before the war. The cuisine and cultural life that is one of the best in Europe. Kiev is like a new Berlin, just cooler. So I hope, you know, we'll come back to it very soon, and hopefully we'll meet again in some maybe more pleasant discussions. So, but one more message from me, you know. We know that you're fighting, your country is at war, you're fighting for freedom, but you're fighting not only for your freedom, you're fighting for European values, you're fighting for Lithuanians as well. We won't forget that, and we will do everything we can to help you win, and we will win. We will win.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Sure, maybe a picture.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
you.
Have a
Bye.
nice
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Всім дякую.